opinions expressed on Carter's Corner are entirely independent of the opinions of Radio 89.7 FM's Wise Board, talented management and wonderful sponsors. Carter's Corner respects the right of each individual to hold and express an opinion unfettered by the shackles of political correctness and without fear of quivering in the quicksand of cancel culture. Radio is for entertainment, not censorship.
Welcome to Carter's Corner. You're with your host, Travis Carter, on this glorious night. So, first of all, thanks for tuning in. Today, we've got a pretty interesting show. So, we've got an actual member of parliament calling us up on the phone tonight. And also, we've got John Pia and John Asek from the South Sudanese Community Association of WA coming up shortly as well. So, make sure you get your requests of any questions you'd like to ask them through on the request line 0418 897 897. Also, you can listen live anywhere in Australia, anywhere in the world at 897fm.com.au. So would I head to a song, and then after the song, we'd either have our very first member of parliament on the show. So this is Carter's Corner with Travis Carter on 89.7. All right, this is Carter's Corner with your host, Travis Carter. Okay, so bit of a phone issue, can't get a hold of the politician I was telling you about, but we'll get back to that one later. So we do have John Pia, who is the current Deputy Director of the South Sudanese Community Association of WA and the President of the South Sudanese Community Association of WA, John Asek. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and I've got to turn your microphones on. Say hello.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries, John. And Asek, welcome to the show. So we, today, obviously there's been in the news a lot of reports about young African and South Sudanese gangs running riot over in Victoria. And there's a whole heap of things over the past couple of months, including things like the Black Lives Matter and a whole heap of other things going on in the media, which they just haven't really portrayed the South Sudanese community very well. So we do have John and Asek with us today to actually represent the South Sudanese community and tell their side of the story and give people a real indication of what's going on. So first of all, in the introduction there, I did talk about Black Lives Matters, the protests that happened and all that through there. Do you think the Black Lives Matter is a real thing? Do you think it should be there? Who wants to go first? Asek, welcome to the show. And what do you think?
Thank you. To me, as John Asek, I believe it is the right of the Black American to protest, and because of the injustice that is happening to them for centuries and centuries, and what the people are doing at the moment, the people that are doing, the older people, the young people, the elderly people, the middle-aged people, is to stop the injustice that has happened to the Black American. But all in all lives matter as human being, and the reason why Black Lives Movement is very important at the moment in the history of the world is because of what had happened in America, and that's why the world is paying attention to it.
Okay, so definitely. So at no point I think Black Lives Matter, the protests themselves should be stopped. But why should they be focusing solely on one group, saying like only one life matters, like one group of people, like the Black lives? What about the rest of the people? What about the white, the Chinese, the Hispanics, and every other race and any combination of? Because there's so many people that are of multiple race, so half Asian, half white, half Asian, half black, half Hispanic, half black. What about all of them? Do their lives matter as well?
Their life matters, but the history itself is telling the whole world why they are supporting the Black Lives Matter is the history itself. Because what is happening in America in the last 200 years is the life of the black people and the history that the black people in America have the experience is the one that is pushing the Black Lives Matter to be more of important in all the main media and to making sure that the whole world understand that every life matters. It is not only the black life that matters.
Yep. So
To me,
every life matters?
Every life matters. To me, in America, what the black in America are trying to say is that every life matters. Because if the black life wouldn't matter, and if the black life is not matter, then the life of the rest of the other people will not matter too.
Spot on. I can actually agree with that one. I think one thing I think we got to be really, really careful of is everyone should be able to express concerns. And if that's through a protest, a petition to government or to anything like that, you should have that right. But for a group to turn around and say, only this group matters or only that group matters, I think that's reverse discrimination. It's reverse racism.
I hate the term. Sorry, I'm going to butt right in on this one. I hate the term reverse discrimination. I hate the term reverse racism. Racism is racism. Full stop. It doesn't matter about the colour of your skin or any ethnicity or whatever. I find that, quite frankly, a disgusting term that we need to wipe from the vernacular.
I personally think racism full stop should be wiped from everything.
Well, round of applause on that one. Quite frankly, that's the answer, isn't it? Let's face it.
Let's just stop labelling people. But unfortunately, we do have a lot of Muppets that still do label people.
That is the world we live in right now, where everyone seems to be. There seems to be a movement to label people, and I think that's absolutely disgusting.
And we gotta live as human beings.
Absolutely,
that's the most important thing, and that is why Black Lives Movement is pushing the button to make sure that every life matters.
To me, we should celebrate our differences, quite frankly.
Correct.
That's what makes life interesting. If we're all alike, how boring would life be? Simple. Yep.
There'd be a hell of a lot less wars, that's for sure. Sorry, that went a little bit morbid there straight away, didn't it? So,
thanks for that,
okay, so obviously all lives matter.
Correct.
Do you think labelling just one group, coming from the South Sudanese community, do you think that's, and obviously as per the disclaimer, these are your own personal opinions here. This isn't the South Sudanese opinions here. This is your opinions. Do you think having a Black Lives Matter protest, do you think that is a form of racism in itself?
Correct.
So either of you guys can answer. So Ashik, yes. What about you, John? Do you think it's a form of racism?
Actually, to answer that question is a bit tricky, but I will put it in this way. For me personally, I don't look at it like it's a racism, but I look at it in form of like educating the public out there of what is happening within that particular minority group, so that people can know exactly what is happening within that particular group.
Okay.
I think it's a way of educating people on what is happening within that particular
But we should be educating through violence. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's unfortunate part of it, but it wasn't meant to be with the violence, but normally we have some few elements that use it in a wrong way. That's where the problem is. But in actual sense, it has to be in a good way, with no violence, just something that can educate other people about what is happening with the black community.
So I must admit, that's one of the reasons we did create this show, because there's too much, especially with the cancel culture that's going on out at the moment. If you have a disagreeing opinion with someone, they come and go, oh, you can't have your opinion, not allowed to have your opinion, you're a bad person, let's just squash it, and no one will hear the opinion. And I personally, I don't think that's the right way to go. We need to have these discussions to, as you said, educate the people. If we see all sides of the arguments, whether you support it or not, it needs to be said, it needs to be discussed, and it needs to be brought up on things like the radio, the TV, and all that sort of stuff. So on that side of things, especially being as you guys are a part of the South Sudanese community, do you think the mainstream media reported truthfully on the protests and what was happening with them from what you guys could see?
In America?
No, the Australian Black Lives Matters protests.
I think the Australian main media are presenting their perception and their position, and that is, it can't be the opinion of everyone. But what I said before and what John have just said is that part of Black Lives Movement is part of educating the human being, that we are all equal. We have the same opinion. As long as you have your expression of interest, then you are entitled to your opinion and shouldn't be violent. And as long as you express your opinion peacefully without coming into my territory and without getting into other person's territory, then that should be okay.
Okay, cool.
Because that is freedom.
Okay,
freedom of expression, freedom of information, freedom of expressing yourself as a human being.
Okay, let's throw another question out there, because there has been all across the world, a lot of Black Lives Matter protests did get very, very violent. Do you think the movement has been hijacked by groups that are intentionally going out there to look to sow violence and fear and just discord within the community?
Antifa, for example?
My opinion is it depends with how the state
Right.
manage the protests.
Okay.
In Australia, if the state mismanage the protests, it shouldn't go into violence.
Okay.
If the state
Can I
couldn't
ask-
manage it well in America, in South Africa, in Kenya, in South Sudan, in anywhere in the world,
Yep.
it shouldn't get into violence. As
shouldn't,
long as
absolutely
they
right.
express their opinion and as long as they don't get into any other territory, then it should be a free and fair.
Perfect. Okay, so we do need to go to a few messages from our sponsors very, very shortly. So what we're going to do, we'll have a bit of a listen to what our sponsors have to say. Then we're going to continue on with this. We've got John Pia and John Ashik from the South Sudanese Community Association of WA. So guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll be right back after this short message. Come on, Alanis. Finish up. Okay, we're back on Carter's Corner. Well, I'm back and you guys are still listening. Okay, so 89.7, you can listen live at 897fm.com.au or on your radios, literally at 89.7 on a FM wireless. Okay, so we do have John Pia and John Asik from the South Sudanese Community Association of West Australia with us here on the radio today. So we were talking about Black Lives Matter earlier. Very, very interesting. We did get a text message through on 0418 897 897 earlier today. A gentleman said for him, Black Lives Matter is NAIDOC week. For me, I can only hope Australia can catch up to New Zealand. Now, I'm assuming that you're talking about the anti-discrimination laws for New Zealand on that one. So if you don't mind, just flick us an update on that, a follow-up message, and I'll be able to sort that one out for you. I have got the producer looking into it to find out the difference between Australia's anti-discrimination laws and also New Zealand. So while we wait for that information to come through, gentlemen, how has COVID-19 affected you guys in your South Sudanese community, and what's been the biggest difficulty, dramas that you've had to deal with in dealing with COVID-19?
Yep, thank you. This is a very, very important question, and to all your audience, COVID-19 as a new emerging community in Western Australia, it has affected the South Sudanese community. As a growing community, we got the larger population that does not read and write, and the information that we have that was filtering through what they're getting into our community, and we have to rely on our technical know-how. We have to use people like John and the rest of the other people within our community who are health experts to make sure we do our own local translation. So that it has affected us to put a lot of enormous pressure on some of the volunteers. As you guys know, South Sudanese community is like any other small community that is existing in Western Australia. We are a volunteer-based organization, and we rely on the time and the resources that our own members give to us. So we have to make sure we do our local translation. We have over 27 languages here in Western Australia as South Sudanese, and the government resources, information reaching to the people wasn't enough. There was a little bit of translation done in few languages, but because the few languages you talk of the whole world.
Okay, so just so I can paraphrase this to make it a little bit easier to understand, especially for the very political savvy people out there, especially when you get presentations and Mark McGowan is sitting on the radio and he's doing his little self-promotion every day and he's talking and you've got the person waving their hands around for the hearing impaired people. There's not very much translations, communications or anything like that into the South Sudanese community, especially considering you've got 27 languages, was it?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Now, so what you're also saying is that the government didn't help you on that, so you were forced to do it yourself. So for John here, for example, we were talking off air and you speak how many languages?
Yeah, 18 languages.
Oh, what a show off.
I struggle with English.
Exactly.
So, John, how many languages is that?
Oh,
sorry, what languages?
Oh, there are quite a lot. There's English,
Yeah.
there's Arabic, there's Moro, there's Lugbara, there is Luganda. There are about 18. I can't read all of them.
Wow. Okay, so
Some
that's
of them you
insane.
can pick, yeah.
So what's happened is, so the reason I really want to bring this one up, my producer has sent through some information for me.
I'm going to cut in on this a little bit. Okay, a little bit of my opinion on this. I am absolutely 1,000% for equality, but I also believe that Australia as a nation, our national language is English, and therefore when our press releases go out and all that sort of thing, they should be in English. And that also means that when people come to Australia from other nations, as my ancestors did, and when I say ancestors, my old man, they should speak English, even if it should be part of a requirement to become a citizen in Australia.
You know the great thing about this show? We can disagree.
I know.
Because
And we will.
let's say you plan to migrate to Australia through the normal processes as a genuine migrant. I think as part of getting that visa, I think, yes, 100% you should be able to speak English.
Yep.
Now, if you're a genuine refugee and someone's got a gun to your head and you're about to get killed and they pull you out of the country you're from, you don't have time to learn.
Total different set of rules on that one, trust me.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking
But the question is, when we talk of people who doesn't read and write,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that they refuse to learn English. They are the people who are learning English, and they will. It will take time for them to understand the jargon,
Absolutely.
thing.
I completely agree. I mean,
My kids speak better English than me,
right?
because they were born here.
Yep.
They went to school here.
Right.
I speak broken English.
You speak beautiful English, actually, but okay, I think so.
So that is that is where we are coming around, because most of the elderly people who have not gone to schools, they have come here. Not only the South Sudanese community, you the audience, there's so many other communities who have got the larger population, and Australia is investing a lot of money to making sure that these people are given the fair due to them.
Okay.
Yeah,
to be able to
need the
understand
opportunity.
English. They are they're getting to school, they go there.
Do not disagree for a second. Absolutely don't. And
One quick question.
My family came to Australia as refugees.
Correct.
Half my family did. So I completely understand that situation. I'm just saying, exactly, if we're going through the normal channels, I think that's a very important thing to look at the problems they've had in Victoria because of with COVID, because of the language barrier.
We will get to that one later in the show as well. Now, Dwayne, can you pull up the figures of how many refugees come in every year on asylum figures for me, please, and send it through to the studio? So just going to the English side of things, there's a lot of people in Australia who are here due to asylum. You know, there's been wars in Sudan, South Sudan, Iraq, Iran. It just seems like lately, especially under the Obama administration, there's nothing but wars everywhere. Trump's tried to stop that, but there were still wars everywhere. And it looks like there's still going to be wars everywhere. So unfortunately, these days, having displaced citizens is becoming the norm.
And we have a wonderful country. So, why wouldn't you want to come here? Let's face it.
Exactly. And that's causing a lot of problems. But we'll also address that one later. So just going back to the initial question about one of the failings of the government during this COVID-19 emergency, especially with whether they're citizens, guests, holiday makers who are here just for fun, because remember, they shut the borders. A lot of these people can't go home. So there's a lot of people in Australia, whether you're Australian citizen, permanent resident, or just a guest, that don't speak English or have very poor broken English. So what Ashik was saying is that the information going out was always in English, sign language, and not very much else. So they had to rely on people like John to translate everything for them. Right. So what's happened is we have had a news article, and this is a direct quote from a guy called Mr. Sala. We use social media like Facebook and WhatsApp groups and forums to post recorded health messages and send it to those platforms where the members can access it. So from reading this article, it looks like the information was sent out, but by the sounds of it, the government did nothing with it. Would that be right, Dwayne? Nod a head, thumbs up, thumbs down? He's not sure. Okay, so
Yep. So
do you guys know who Mr. Salah is?
Yep. So the question wasn't about whether the health messages was going out to the community or not. The question was whether the health messages was getting to the right people, the
Correct.
most vulnerable people.
Correct. And a lot of those
the
people...
government, and I don't want to protect anyone here. Is I just making it bluntly, the government has done whatever it required of her as a government of the people. They have tried their best. COVID-19, not only in Australia, COVID-19 caught the whole world unprepared.
Yes.
We were not prepared as Australian.
Yep.
But this is a learning curve. In the next 100 years, should anything break out in terms of anything,
Absolutely.
then we have to be upfront to it. So the government did their part, but because nobody knew that something like COVID-19 will happen in 2020. So what we are saying is that as a citizen, we play our role to make sure.
And that's what good citizens do. They step up and they look after their community. I absolutely agree with that.
Part of volunteerism. I was in the conference a few weeks ago, and the conference was people conference. People, the citizen, the role of the citizen was one of the topics that we discussed. And during COVID-19, a lot of people have just come up. Nobody knew that some of the people who did not even knew their neighbors had to know their neighbors.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Because
bringing people together.
the citizen has to look after themselves. As South Sudanese, we have to look ourselves. As our neighbors, as South Sudanese, we have to look ourselves. So the role of citizen play a big role.
Totally agree.
And that is what I want to put across.
May I ask a question on that then? So who is Mr. Salah and what's your relation to him? So I know what authority he speaks with.
Now, I don't know whether Mr. Salah, the guy that I know, that should be a different person.
Okay.
But the person that was saying that the messages was coming from the government to the people, and we have to cover the information and put it into the platform. That is correct.
Okay. Fantastic.
We have to, we use our own platform as community, as citizen, because I have got a platform that the platform of South Sudanese community have got over 70,000 following it. And any information that goes into the community, any information that we post, the citizen, the South Sudanese believe it is the right information and come from the right source.
The word community is overused as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of people use the word, but they don't actually act upon it. They don't do the right thing and look after your fellow man. And it's such an important thing to do. So anybody who volunteers in a role like that, who puts forward their skills, like yourself, John, with so many languages, well, I mean,
I'm still a bit blown away by that.
I'm so impressed and embarrassed at the same time for myself. I just, I find it highly commendable. But apart from being commendable, to be frank, I just think it should become the norm again. I think that looking after each other needs to become, and maybe with COVID, this has changed the world a little bit here.
There's a few things I think, to me, don't quite ring true with the last statement. So we're talking about the COVID-19 caught everyone unaware. Does anyone remember SARS back in 2003?
Yep.
That was a COVID virus. They knew how dangerous this virus was. They knew they've had over a decade to get ready for this. They've had the Ebola outbreaks over in, I can't remember where it started. Liberia. Yep. There's, like, if you check Australian, like not even Australian history, but world history, you've had pandemic after plague. The viruses isn't a new thing. And so the response from the government in regards to COVID, my personal belief is you've locked up the entire community for something that's a little bit worse than a flu. So obviously, if you've got lung problems, asthma, or other health issues first, it can be a fatal disease, and it has proven to be fatal. But so is the common flu. Yeah. So I personally don't think the government did a very good job with it. I think
COVID-19 is as much a political problem as it is a health issue. Quite
I just don't understand why they destroyed the world economy, because I'm just waiting for things like JobKeeper, JobSeeker to finish and find out what happens.
About destroying the economy, because of course right now they're These great think tanks are all together, and they're trying to do a reset on on the world rather, talking about the finances, talking about one world currency and all that sort of carry on.
Wow, that sounds a little bit close to the
But
New World
on the
Order.
other side,
Sounds a little bit, doesn't it? Ooh.
Yep. on the other side, you know, in economy, there's what they call multiplier effect. And on the other side, COVID-19 has turned the community to look inward. They buy local.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
produce their own. So some of the communities have sustained themselves because they were locked
You're so right.
in their own
so right.
space.
And you've
So
had
it has given us it has given us a second thought about the agenda of globalization, that things can be produced in India and they can be shipped to Australia within 5 days.
Yes.
That the fresh food can be produced in London and it can be supplied in New York within few hours. So that is that the COVID-19, there's so good thing that has come with COVID-19, but there is so bad thing that has come with the COVID-19. But reviving the local economy is one of the good things.
Absolutely. It has become a bit of an opportunity. And I think that, out of a negative thing, you've got to find the positive and roll with that and turn it into something as positive as you possibly can.
Okay,
Travis.
so we do need to hear from our sponsors again. I would love to pick this one up again, so please stick around with us. So you are listening to Carter's Corner on 89.7 FM. You can listen live on 89.7fm.com.au, and we've got more text messages coming through. So the text line is 0418 897 897. A little bit of music, a little bit of messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back shortly. Carter's Corner on 89.7 with your host, Travis Carter. We are getting messages, I was going to say thick and heavy and fast, but not really. They're coming in dribs and drabs. So make sure you get your messages through 0418 897 897. So we have got a couple of questions about here where they want to talk about the Remembrance Day, NAIDOC, and what's happening with native title in Australia versus what they do in New Zealand. So that's what all those questions were about. So what we'll do, we'll address them in the second hour of the show. But at the moment, we'll talk about more of the issues within the South Sudanese communities and also their dealings with the Australian government and stuff like that. So in the recent probably 6 months or so, there's been quite a lot of, we'll say, questionable policies that have come out in Australia with in regards to how refugees are treated and what they do and stuff like that. And there was a lot of people complaining that the people in places like Manus Island and Christmas Island were not getting adequate medical treatment.
Oh, can we use the button that I made for this? What an absolute load of rubbish.
Bullshit.
Absolute rubbish.
Let's be honest here. It's bullshit. I've seen reports where they're saying there's 7 doctors for every refugee in one of those islands. Dwayne, as our resident fact checker, can you just check how many medical staff per refugee on Manus Island and Christmas Island there are? Anyway, so what's happened is and this was predominantly pushed by the Greens Party, they got it through Parliament that if 2 doctors, any doctors, said that someone, let's say they cut their foot or I've got a headache, I need to go to the mainland to be treated, 2 doctors in Australia could circumvent all the security checks and bring someone into Australia with no security screening whatsoever. Now, both John and Ashik have both spent time in refugee camps in Uganda. And Ashik, where did you spend your time? Was it Uganda as well? Uganda. Okay, so
Kenya.
Both of these...
Kenya.
Oh, Kenya. Sorry about that. So both these gentlemen know what it's actually like to be in a refugee camp. They know what it's like in there. John, how long were you in a refugee camp in Uganda?
Actually, I was from 1991 up to 2004. That's approximately 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so why is there such a massive complaint about offshore detention centres and processing for such a short period of time compared to that 13, 15 years? If it's okay in Kenya or Uganda, then why in the world can Australia not protect its borders?
I think that's a very good one to discuss later.
Bit of silence there. I'm going to throw a couple of things out here because I really need to get some answers for myself here. So if somebody comes to Australia, and I want to ask your opinion, guys. Yeah. Someone comes to Australia as a refugee or whatever the case may be. What do you believe that they are entitled to when they get here?
I think that question is a bit tricky, but I'll put it in this way because in terms of refugees, we should look at it into two ways. I'll just give an example. There are those refugees who come to Australia as a second country of asylum, and that's what most of the South Sudanese who are here, they actually came as they came to Australia as their second country of asylum. And maybe to give the audience some idea about what I mean by second country of asylum is that, let's say, for example, if you run from your country because of conflict, the first country that registers you as a refugee, that's your first country of asylum. And that's where you're supposed to stay. But there are certain conditions or certain circumstances that you may face in that country that is beyond your control. Then it may force you to leave that country, but not illegally. That has to be done officially by UN to another country.
Are people not escaping and sometimes just shopping for a better deal?
Yep. I think what we need to do there, if you don't mind, John, John has actually spoken to me off air about this one. He's told me his story. Do you mind telling the people about why you're so familiar with the second island, second country of settlement?
Yep.
You don't have to. It's pretty traumatic. So I'll let John take the floor.
Yeah. Just to give an idea, like me personally, actually, what made me to come to Australia as a South Sudanese here is because I came here as a second country of asylum, because where I was in my first country of asylum, there was a lot of insecurity that I cannot actually survive there. That's why I ended up coming to the second country of asylum. Yeah. And that's how I ended up in Australia as a second country of asylum, and it's my new country here.
Yeah, so just so the people listening in can understand, John nearly got killed in the refugee camp. Okay. His life was intimately in threat, so that's why they removed him from the refugee camp. I won't go into details because I don't know if it's still a health issue for you or not. His life was due to no fault of his own. He could have been killed. Okay. And so he is a genuine, he needed help. The UN stepped in and did it. So the main reason about this, so that's how they brought him to here. The other refugees that John was about to talk about is the economic refugees, where they just want a better life, so they come to Australia. They don't want to do it properly, so they jump the queue. They fly here on a holiday. They go, oh, I need asylum. I'll get persecuted when I get back home. Yep. Like the Indian or the Burmese couple with the two kids, and they're trying to appeal at the moment.
Burmese, I believe.
Anyway, so he's gone back 3 times, but now that his visa's expired and they said, no, you're not a refugee, he's going, oh, but I'll get persecuted, but you've been back 3 times. So they're queue jumpers as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So the question is, with the 2-doctor law in Australia, how does the UN and in the actual proper refugee camps, how do they process people who have medical conditions? Like you were telling me about it before, the list of conditions. Yeah,
I will give you an example, especially the refugee camp that I was in it. Like what actually happened is that it was a transparent system whereby the local hospitals within the refugee camps actually have a certain capability of treating certain illnesses. And then there are certain illnesses that if that local hospital can't treat, then a refugee is transferred to the nearest city for a treatment. And then like the African one, actually, we consider those ones like super illness, things like appendicitis. Okay. You can't do it from the local refugee camps. They have to take you to the nearest hospital, to the nearest town. And then maybe if it's for ladies, maybe complication with the birth, then they will take them to the nearest. But that one has to be through what they call proofs that you really need that kind of help. And the other thing that it's known within the camp is that everybody knows the capability of the hospital, like what kind of treatment that hospital will provide and which one it will not provide. But for the case of Australia, I know, like when it comes to super illness, it will be things like heart surgery and then maybe the brain. Those are kind of like super illness. So I can't understand like how they define the super illness here in order to transfer somebody from one point to another point.
Okay, so I've got some stats here. Thank you for that, Mr. Producer Dwayne. So there is 60 plus medical practitioners for a population of 652, and that was Senator Molan.
Got to be kidding me.
That's nearly 1 to 10. 1 to 10.5 medical practitioners per refugee. 10.5 refugees per medical practitioner. Now, I don't know, last time I went to the GP, I sat there for nearly 2 hours just waiting to get script because I have asthma, so I get scripts for
I'm
my
going to wind the
ventilators
clock
now.
back because, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but my question was not answered. And if I can refer to our other John on this one, because you are obviously, you're on board in a medical position with, hospital here in WA, and you are in a position of power and influence. I need to ask you, when people come from another nation, whatever the status would be, if it's refugee or whatever, what do you believe their entitlements should be? I'd like an answer, please.
So what I think, as long as Australian has granted them to live in Australia, they should be entitled to the entitlement should be the same like the Australian citizen.
Okay, but that is not the case. The entitlement that these refugees and people coming in from all different reasons, they get substantially more than the local Australians, substantially more. So that is invalid. So what do you believe their entitlement should be?
But that, to me, your answer, it depends with the proofs. I need to see the data, whether they're getting more privileges than the Australian local citizen. And
we've just got Dwayne pulling that
for
up now.
For Australian,
Yep.
we have a universal health care here in Australia.
Wonderful thing.
You are entitled to have your private health insurance, and we have the world-class health care system in Australia. And as long as we welcome people to Australia, whether they are visitors or whether they are business people, whether they are refugees, and as long as they live in Australia and we have given them privilege to stay here as citizens, and if they got ill, Australia have a responsibility, a moral responsibility as one of the United Nations member state.
Okay.
To provide
now, as far
that.
as I'm concerned, the United Nations is the next closest thing to communism, but that's my opinion.
Yep.
But as we're sitting here right now, I need an operation. Okay, I'm actually got a health problem that I need an operation. And if I was a refugee or a person coming in to any of those other methods, I would get care much quicker than I'm waiting for effectively, very important surgery. So again, I ask, what do you believe the entitlements should be? Because quite frankly, a refugee currently has far more entitlements. Our government has pandered and pandered and pandered to the UN. The UN is, as far as I'm concerned, has become a communist organisation. It's about filling, people's pockets and control. As far as I'm concerned, the UN, the World Health Organisation, COVID is certainly showing them up to be what they are.
Definitely showing their true colours on that
Their
one.
true colours, absolutely. So, look, even Greta wouldn't be impressed. But I would like to know from a person who is in a position of power, as I say, who is on boards and here in Western Australia and part of the community, why do you think that people who come into Australia illegally, why do you think that they get more entitlements? Why do you think they're entitled to more than a citizen here who was born here?
Can I just say this your argument is your personal belief?
It's facts, actually.
And it's a fact that is not verified, and it is your own personal opinion. If I give you the stat,
I'd love to hear
what
that.
is happening in Christmas,
Could you give
what
me
is
the stats?
happening what's happening in Christmas Island, in Manus Island, where people are suffering and people have to be shipped down here to the mainland to get a simple operation, you would be surprised. But
please,
what we are
I've got the
getting,
stats right here.
what
Please
we are getting
educate me
here,
then. Please educate me.
because the facts that we are getting here, we can call them Wikimedia.
No, these aren't Wikipedia.
They
These are the government
they're
reports.
Wikipedia. They're not a public, verified, classified information. I'm not here to protect any public health or private health department. I'm not a government employee, but I'm just telling you, in just as a citizen, we
You're not
can
a regular
see.
citizen. You are not a regular citizen.
We can see what is happening in Manus Island. Right? If I take you to Manus Island and you stay there in Manus Island or Christmas Island for 1 week, you will understand what these people are reporting to you is completely lie. It's not true.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in there. So you've said that the reports from the Australian government are lying and that the people on Manus Islands are suffering quite badly.
Yep.
Okay, I actually have friends...
that is not from the Australian government.
No,
that
that's
is
fine.
from
That's your
the
opinion, so
Wikimedia.
it's fine.
Yep.
So
I question the fact that you say Wikimedia, which is obviously a phrase that you've coined because you don't believe the media and you don't believe what your statistics you find. The reality is, look, I have a little joke that I say. It's 76% of statistics are made up on the spot. Okay? The fact of the matter is...
I do have stats here.
Okay, let's hear the real ones.
Okay, so this is coming from the Australian government. This is not from Wikipedia or the news agencies or anything like this. This is legit from the Australian government. It is reported that in the past 4 years, the Australian government has spent $9.6 billion on its asylum policy. Offshore processing alone is estimated to cost over $400,000 per person per year.
We could end homelessness in a second in this country.
And that was on the 20th of... stop sending me messages. 20th of January 2019. Since then, it's actually gone up from what I've been told. But I haven't seen that report.
So $400,000 per person, is that what's costing, is it?
Roughly.
Right, well, that's great value.
There's more here. It has cost $1 million each for every detainee imprisoned on Manus Island since 2012. According to the Parliamentarian Library, that one detention centre alone has cost around $2 billion over this period. This enormous sum could instead reverse government cuts and boost the spending on healthcare and education. So now I have got a question come through here. Have you actually been to Manus Island?
No.
No. So how do you know what's on Manus Island if you haven't been there?
Because I work with the people who have been in Manus Island.
Oh,
second-hand information.
Exactly. So your whole policy is based on hearsay. Great policy.
It's not hearsay.
It is hearsay. It's absolutely hearsay.
But
absolutely hearsay.
Okay, that is the statistic that you get. Can you tell me how much is the government of Australia investing in a person, to a single person, to a pensioner?
Certainly not 400,000. Let me tell you that.
To a
now,
pensioner.
do you know what we've got?
In
I'm sorry.
In healthcare, not in other.
We'll get the real results of Dwayne. So tone it down a little bit, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm loving this conversation because the best thing I love about this is we've got two clear different opinions. And the thing is, we're having a civil conversation about this.
And you know what? When we walk out, we will shake hands. Okay.
Well, we just had dinner together.
We did have dinner together, exactly.
So, it's so to all the people, unfortunately, one of the down points of this show at the moment is we don't have a lot of the people that come on are right or central right. I'm trying to get as many lefties on this show as I can. It's just so hard. We keep getting them in, like Dia Baines. There's politicians.
Well, she pulled the pin at the last second because it didn't fit her little agenda.
It's so hard. I think what it is, they think we're going to try and ambush media, and so we're not. We genuinely want to give everyone an opportunity to have their say. Now, be nice.
I know.
Look, and I'm pointing to Aaron on that one.
I want you to change my mind. I seriously want to be wrong. As I say, I'm a big
Dwayne,
campaigner
can you
for
pick
equality.
up the phone, please? Dwayne, pick up the phone. So we've got a phone call coming through, so I'm just getting the producer to pick it up.
All right, mate. Look, how's this? How about we take a minute?
We do need to play some ads. And you just told me not to that. We're playing some messages.
We
are
playing some messages and maybe a song. Sounds good, mate. So let's do that.
God, we're having an absolute
you know what you need to
blast
play?
in here.
It's getting hot in here. That's what you need to play. But...
a bit of Ush. Is it Ush? No. It's,
no.
Nelly.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll go to a few messages and then a song. So you're on Carter's Corner, and if you're a lefty, please call in, talk. We won't attack you.
Let's not give him a horrible name, okay?
I'm a righty.
Okay, you're whatever you want to be, I guess.
If they are interested citizens,
I love that. Let's do that. Yep. Beautiful. Fantastic.
Awesome. So Carter's Corner, we're having a blast here, having a chat. So if you're enjoying, send a text message through saying great work. Anyway, it's 4 minutes past 9 on 89.7.
Well done, Mr. Carter. That's all I can say. Great choice of song there.
What? It's an awesome song.
It is,
And
I
my
love it.
dancing is on point. It is awesome. And for those who don't know, this is Carter's Corner. I'm your host, Travis Carter, and the wannabe host, we've got Aaron Malloy here. We have John Pia, and we've got John Ashik from the South Sudanese Community Association of Western Australia with us. We're having some phenomenal chats here. I think it's been great. So you guys have, personally, I have to say, I think they've been the best guests yet. Differing opinions,
talk it up.
heated chats, and a
Good
bit
for
of
you,
brown nosing. Why not? It goes all the way. That's brown nosing from me, by the way.
I can tell. Trust me. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
All right.
So now, Aaron said he's got one last, because we got to wrap it up quickly with these guys. So, one last issue.
Okay,
topic.
we've talked a lot about Black Lives Matter, and I think we've all got the same position. All lives matter. Simple as that. I would like to know how you gentlemen feel about the difference between Black Lives Matter, the protest and caring about equality and making sure that we get rid of the problems that we have in society in that regard, and the other side of Black Lives Matter, the brand, the activists, the registered business, Black Lives Matter, okay, the entity that is actually there, raising money and so forth, okay, because they're not the same thing. So whenever I see Black Lives Matter written anywhere, it actually it upsets me a little bit, because I think to myself, you're using these horrible deaths of these people and this negative thing, you're using it for your own political agenda. It's not genuine. Let's be honest. This is something that Antifa's been very much involved with. It is a political movement far more than it is a protest about change. What do you think about the difference between the two? Should we change the slogan so that we get away from that brand? Just my thoughts. What are yours?
As I said before, I think all of us are entitled to our own opinion, and the summary and the end game of the Black Lives Movement is all life matters.
Completely disagree with you.
And
Black Lives Movement, okay, Black Lives Matter movement, okay, is a political movement. It's a very different thing, okay? It's making money, okay? If it's making money, it's not about what it's been pretended to be.
It's making a lot of money.
It matter on the angle that you look at it, but to your own understanding, as I said before, that Black Lives Movement is an agenda for all life matters.
Then why is it profitable?
It is the way the state handle it.
Follow the money.
In each and every state, the capitalists, the people with the money will throw anything. This is an opportunity for people with money. They have to use it because they got the population.
Yep.
Because business is all about people.
So why were Black Lives Matter trashing businesses during the protests in America? If it's about business and getting people jobs, why were they destroying businesses that give people jobs?
Of the very people they're saying they're protecting.
It is the way that the state handle the freedom of expression of people.
So when you
when
say
they
state,
express, they state. When I say
so
the state,
place?
the state is institution of the country.
Okay, so when you say this, the way that the state handled the Black Lives Matter protests, are you talking about the police, how they handled the protests?
The state, the law enforcement agent, any institution of the country.
Okay, so
how do you think the government
politician?
How do you think the government should have dealt with the Black Lives Matter, protests and movement?
They could have dealt with the Black Lives Movement like any other movement that have changed the whole world.
That's not an answer.
That is the answer.
It's not an answer.
There are movement of people, millions of people marching on each and every street in the world. And they have kept the world to be the way it is at the moment. The world have stopped the slavery trade.
Yep.
And it wasn't coming to an end. All right? It wasn't the slave trade wasn't coming to an end, for no one have ever think about the business people were looking at it as a lucrative business.
But
so they can bring people anywhere.
Do you feel that we should separate, Black Lives Mattering, the fact that, all lives should matter and Black lives should matter. Should we separate that and the business that is the Black Lives Matter movement?
As long as the state, and I said before and I have to repeat it, Not every country where the Black Lives Movement have vandalized the businesses all around the world. We have a Black Lives Movement, people marching in Australia. In the city of Perth, we have a crowd that have marched. They state, the Western Australia state, law enforcement agent, respect the right of the citizen to express themselves.
Okay.
It was done in an orderly way. Wherever it turned ugly, it remained with that state. Whether in America, in Paris, in London, anywhere. It depends with how you handle the movement of people in each and every state.
So are you advocating for more control then by the government?
Not the more control, but the gentle handle of the people.
Okay, let me throw a question out there then. So you're saying that the police were heavy-handed in dealing with the Black Lives Matter protests, and that because they escalated the guidance that they were giving by having riot police there and the shields and all that sort of stuff, it's to be expected that it will escalate. So let's have a look at this from a different perspective here.
Okay.
Let's pretend you're a police officer. You've been told there's a protest going on. You're there to watch them, observe them, make sure they behave, and then if anyone does anything wrong, you're to arrest the person.
Correct.
Okay, you're sitting there. These people come up to a statue of George Washington, and they start trying to pull it down. What should have the police done? Should he have followed his directives and arrested the person trying to destroy the statue, or should he have ignored his boss and let the statue get destroyed of the person who owned slaves and freed them? And that's why they built a statue of him.
Freedom, individual freedom, encroaching into another person in freedom is not freedom. All right? As long as you encroach into you trigger, right, in the whole world. Okay. We were not in America, all right? And I gave an example of the Black Lives Movement in Perth, city of Perth, where we are living in. They did their march peacefully.
Fantastic.
The state has never triggered. And if the state could have triggered anything, it could have turned badly.
Yes.
Because once the movement of people, the citizen, so the role of the state is to make sure they look up after everyone. When you try to bring the issue to do with police, law enforcement agent, they are ingredient of the state. The state give them the laws.
I keep hearing you using the
them.
term the state, and quite frankly, it almost feels like I'm sitting in a room with a commie.
Yeah, I just want to add something.
All right, go, John.
I just want to add something on what you guys have been discussing. To be honest, the government actually needs to look into what they call the racial inequalities that exist, and I think that's the major cause of all what has been going on. Because if you look at place like America, there's a lot of racial inequalities happening there.
So let's quickly approach these racial inequalities.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're assuming that the deaths to African Americans by the police in America? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So more African Americans kill more African Americans than what the police kill African Americans. If you look at the stats, it's actually very, very similar. White deaths in custody versus black deaths in custody. Now, if you have a look, deaths in custody caused by taking things like heart attacks, strokes, and natural causes out of deaths in custody, and then you take out police deaths in custody as well. Vast majority of deaths in custody of African Americans are caused by other African Americans.
Yeah.
Okay, so why would you go out and attack and kill police officers who are just trying to defend a statue because more black people kill more black people?
Perhaps people need to think about personal responsibility and not the state controlling them. Absolutely.
Twisting the figures? And then we've been bringing up Perth, how it was all peaceful and everything.
Yeah.
So the target of these protests in Perth was an African gentleman who died in police custody, who had pre-existing heart problems. He also had COVID at the time, apparently. So for someone, if you have a look at the Aboriginal deaths in custody in Australia, the percentages are nearly spot on. White deaths in custody per capita versus black deaths in custody per capita, like Indigenous deaths. So why aren't we protesting everything else? Why are we focusing solely on something that's already been addressed? Just quickly as well, Dwayne, can you pull up how much money is given to the Indigenous communities versus everyone else, please? So welfare payments and all that sort of stuff. I read a report a while ago. It was about $500,000 per person per year. But I just want to double check those figures before I quote them officially.
I think that is incorrect.
Well, it came out in a report just recently. The most heavily subsidised people in the world is Aboriginals in Australia.
We can call it Aboriginal Australia.
Yeah.
If they are on welfare, they receive the same payment. If you
actually,
become
no, they
an
don't.
True. That's absolutely untrue.
That is completely right.
The longer I sit here, the more I realise you actually don't know your facts, and it's actually quite disturbing that a person in your position can be so naive and so lacking the education, or not the education, that's the information, more to the point. Absolutely. It is terrifying to me that you are in such a position of power when you have misquoted so many things and made so many mistakes.
My 10 years in the community sector.
Yeah.
I work with the First Nation people, the Aboriginal people. I know them. And they get the same entitlement that you get if you become an employee. Right? Whether you are a white,
you are wrong,
or a black person, or a Chinese, you are treated the same. They don't get more privileges than any other person in the country.
John.
Okay.
All right. It's your opinion.
No,
that is my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have facts.
Actually, we do have the facts. We do have the facts. This is the great thing about having Dwayne.
That is Wikipedia.
No, this isn't Wikipedia. They do studies and censuses and quite regularly. Okay, so the government directly spent $14.7 billion on the Indigenous people. 77% of that, so $11.3 billion, was through mainstream programs such as Medicare, Social Security payments, childcare benefits, and support for university places accessed by Indigenous people. Did you know that universities hold positions for Aboriginal people over the top of everyone else? So
like everyone else get the same.
So
like everyone else get
apply
X.
for university, I'm not talking about HEC sets yet. I'm talking about positions in a university. If I, as a white man, applies to go to university, I have to get in purely on my scores, where there's a set number of positions held for the Aboriginal community, where if their scores aren't high enough, they'll lower the scores to allow them to study at university. How's that not racism?
That is not racism. Let's come back.
That is racism.
Let's come back.
Where's the bullshit, buddy?
No, that is not racism. Let's come back to what make it. What make the government to make that decision? How did they come
politics?
How did they come into the conclusion to have the closing the gap?
Okay,
there's a calculator on the computer, Dwayne.
To appease the Greens, so that they can basically, when there's a balance of power issue.
I'm not a Green person.
Well, that's politics in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So what?
So I got stats here.
Go on. Yeah.
There is 14.7 billion. There's 745,000 Indigenous people in Australia. So let's pull out the trusty old calculator. Does this computer have a calculator on it?
I'd hope so.
Yes, it does. Okay, so
it's next to the any key, right there. Yeah.
Where's the any key? Okay, so 147000000.
Why this frustrates me, gents,
zero.
is because I very strongly believe in equality, okay, between genders, sexual orientation, whatever the case may be, or whatever the term is right now, I don't know, and obviously between races. It's very important to me. So when advantage is given to someone for their gender, their sexuality, or their race, to me, that is discrimination. That is just as bad. You're basically saying to an Aboriginal person, you're not smart enough to get into university without working hard. We'll give you one because you're not quite good enough. Quite frankly, Aboriginal people are plenty good enough. They are absolutely wonderful parts of society.
Correct.
And they should not be treated like they're lesser citizen. They are a wonderful part of it.
No. The reason why the government is making that decision is because of the history.
No.
And that is the history. Wait a minute. The history. When did you... How many generations do you have in Australia?
What was the figure you just had?
How many generations?
It's about
190,000.
No.
Your generation. I'm just asking your generation.
So, sorry if you ask me.
Your generation. Yep. How many generations do you have here in Australia?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, my mum's side, second generation. I'm first generation Australian on my dad's side.
You are not a real Australian.
I know. I'm not a real Australian.
Okay.
No, you're not.
That's
Are you
fine.
an Australian citizen?
All right.
No, I'm sorry.
All right.
I've got to call you on this one. Yeah. That's bullshit.
No,
And
that is not
no,
bullshit.
stop, because
That
you've
is
just
not
called
bullshit.
Aaron.
Because he doesn't
who's-
understand the
he's
history. He
Australian.
doesn't know the history.
Oh,
matter.
my word.
It does not matter
Oh, my
because
word.
Aaron
He doesn't
is,
know the
I
history.
was born in this country.
When did you? When did you?
Ashik,
When
Ashik,
did? When,
are you
when,
an Australian citizen?
Yes.
You're Australian.
You're
Yep.
Australian.
I don't care where you were born.
I'm a
you're
second-
An Australian.
I'm
no,
a
no,
second-
no, it doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
were born. You're an Australian citizen.
Yeah.
You're Australian.
Yep.
John, are you an Australian citizen?
Yes.
You're Australian.
Yep.
Aaron, are you an Australian citizen?
Certainly am.
You're Australian. I am Australian citizen. I'm Australian. My
Yep.
wife, who was born in Vietnam, is an Australian citizen. She is Australian. So all this talk about, what generation Australian are you? No, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. I will not allow that
That
on this
is
show.
not bullshit.
It
Because
is
this
bullshit.
is where the government making the decision, because the history
not.
need not to repeat itself.
Okay,
Yes,
so
and
that's
this is
If
fine.
the
not the
First
way.
Nation people, if the kid of the First Nation people were removed to be taken to Britain,
Okay.
there's policy of assimilation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what I think
was
you're
that one
talking
fair
about...
enough?
Okay. So
Are you talking about the stolen generation there?
Yes.
So that was instigated by the British government through the Governor General?
That was an Australian government.
No, it was the British government at the
No,
time.
that
It
was
was
an
on
Australian
instructions
government.
from the Governor General.
Yes.
So that's Britain.
We still have Australian general here
Yes.
in Australia.
Okay. Did I steal any children?
No.
No. Did my kids steal any children?
Did your
So
great,
why should
great,
they have
great,
to pay for
great,
something
great-
they do? Why did they have to pay for something that they've done?
But that-
so
but
your
that-
family
that-
back in Sudan and going back as far as your generation goes, did they ever kill someone in the past?
The trauma of what had happened in the past
Did that happen
trickled
to
into
Okay.
every generation. You have the privileges because your
Oh,
great,
wow.
great,
There it is. And
yes.
there it is, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. The professional victim mentality in a box.
Perfect.
Oh
So-
my God. I cannot get over that absolute rubbish.
That
Now
is your opinion.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yep.
is this North Korea?
This is not North Korea.
It's not North Korea. No, it's Australia.
But-
So should I be punished for something that one of my ancestors did?
Did you
No,
did
no,
you
no, that's not the
accept,
question.
Did you accept
In-
the apology
in-
that Kabarat
in-
gave to
The
the First
Queen and
Nation
the British
people?
government should have apologised to the Aboriginal people for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They were atrocious, and they should have paid for it out of time.
But they were not- they
let
were
me
not-
finish,
they
please.
were
Let me
not-
finish,
they
please.
were not
So the
Britain, they
people,
were
the
Australian.
main one they talk about the massacre of the Aboriginal people in Australia. They're talking about the one in, I think it was Tasmania, where they pushed about, I think it was 30 or 50 Aboriginal people off a cliff, and they all died when they hit the bottom. The people who did that actually got hung. They were killed. They paid for their crimes.
Yep.
It was an absolutely disgusting thing. So let's talk about who was the Oklahoma bomber in America.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name.
I think you haven't answered
should
me.
His children,
Did you-
should his children
Do you
be paying
agree
this-
that Kabarat did the right thing to apologize to the First Nation people in 2008?
he should have apologised on behalf of the British Empire because it
No.
was the British Empire that did it.
Okay, can I throw something to you
All right.
right now, to all of you, okay? The stolen generation was one of the most disgusting things in Australia's history, and obviously with the British massive involvement in that, okay?
Australian,
Are
not
you
British.
aware?
No, no,
Are you
there's
aware?
documentation for the British government did it.
Are you aware, right, that currently, right now, today in Australia, children are still being stolen. Children are still being taken from their families and placed with other families on completely false reasons, just like they did through the stolen generation. It's still happening right now.
And it should be a crime and it has to be
Thank you.
addressed.
Thank
and
you
it has
very
to
much.
be condemned. The same way that the Australian society is condemning the agenda of the stolen generation.
Okay, now
Yeah.
the next question is the one that Aaron was talking about. There's actually laws in Australia at the moment that make it illegal to report on it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's okay?
To me, on a personal basis,
Mm-hmm.
the right of the child has to be put in the center.
Okay, I do
Okay.
agree with that.
So
Now,
that
what
wasn't
if-
that didn't answer the
didn't answer
question.
anything. It was-
The
that was-
question
but
was
that is the question.
should the theft of children be reported on openly, or should the government be allowed to silence it because it's through government agencies that are doing this?
It is the right of the citizen to report it. And
Perfect.
it is the right to anybody to report
All right,
it. As
so
long
it
as,
is 8 minutes
as
past,
long as
28
it is,
minutes past
as long
9.
as it is against the right of the child.
Yes, but you know what?
I want to get these guys in again.
Hey, right now we've got a government that seems to believe that child abuse is very profitable. But that's a whole other story that we won't cover tonight. And I think we need to wrap it up, my friend.
We're already 8 minutes past where we're supposed to be. So it's now 9 minutes past. So we're going to go to a quick message and a song, and we'll be right back after this. So, gentlemen, Awesome. As far as I'm concerned, you've been amazing radio. I'd love to have you guys back. But we do need to quickly wrap it up. And after the break, after the messages, we will have Elaine, another panelist, coming in, and we'll be discussing random things. And I was hoping to have a lot more time, but we're running out. So this is Carter's Corner on 89.7. I've got to move the messages, and we go. All right, we're back with Carter's Corner, and I forgot to press the stop button again thing.
You're
It's
very good at it,
awesome.
mate. Tell you what.
know. It was too distracting. Like I was having so much fun with that last topic. So, Carter's Corner, 89.7 FM. Get your messages through 0418 897 897, or you can listen live on 897fm.com.au.
Love it.
Don't forget, there's no dot between the 9 and the 7.
No.
I nearly did the old other station things where where's the dot? Where's the point?
Yes.
Between
It's gone. You know what?
Yeah.
There's no point. Trust me. All right. There's no point to this entire conversation.
There's
Travis.
lots of points to this station, though. This show is awesome. I'm having a blast. So, for those who are very astute, we do have a lady in the office with us now as well. Welcome
do.
back, Elaine. So, how are you today?
Thank you, guys. I'm awesome.
Awesome. We have had a message come through with a photo. Dwayne's doing the hokey pokey.
No, it's all good. He's
All
turned
good,
himself
all good.
around. It's okay. We'll move
Turn
on.
that back
All
on for
right.
us. So Dwayne was just doing the hokey pokey. So we've got the first thing come through. We had a picture. Okay, look. Oh, I'm a goose. All right, Elaine, say g'day.
G'day, how you going?
Oh,
Is
that's
that
a bit
better? Oh, we can actually hear her. Sorry, wrong button again. So we had a picture sent to us. Perth Council, they are just so on the ball.
Oh,
Like just stellar.
razor sharp.
Basil, you're doing a stellar job, mate. So it's absolutely pouring down with rain, and there's the Perth City Council watering the Vergeside trees.
A water truck going through, watering the trees. Just, you know what?
When
Nothing.
it's absolutely
Oh.
hammering down with rain.
Just screams efficiency and use of taxpayer dollars, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, and the thing that really frustrates me, and we got to be honest here, a lot of the people on the Perth Council are very green. They love the environment and all that sort of stuff. So, first of all, it's a waste of water. Secondly, you're burning diesel you don't need to burn. Mm-hmm. You're wasting resources. And for the mental health of these guys are working in the rain. Like, I've worked in the rain before as a roof tiler. It sucks ass. It is terrible. It just sucks.
Okay.
Anyway, so they've got these guys stuck in the rain, watering trees when it's absolutely hammering down. It's just absolutely pointless.
Look,
so
to me,
the
it
council,
screams. It just screams when council just have lost the plot, when they're so caught up with procedural stuff and what ticking boxes and all that kind of carry on. Yeah, it is. It's almost laughable. I live in an area where there's a lot of bushland and that sort of thing, and I find it ridiculous. I'll give you an idea. A place that I know at the moment, they've put the fire breaks in. Fantastic, really important. Put the fire breaks in, but you know what? Maybe it might be time to mow the grass next to the fire breaks, which is a metre tall.
You know what's really,
Just
really
saying.
funny?
Makes sense.
I've got some houses up in Geraldton. We put them up for emergency accommodation, so we don't get money from them. So I don't think we're rich or anything. It was just we had houses, we had nothing to do with them.
Oh, game of Monopoly.
They fall down like Monopoly houses. So what happens is all the houses around us are all state housing houses.
Yep.
And I got a fine for $450 for having my grass over 7.5 centimetres long.
Wow.
Which is the DFS, the fire brigade and all the emergency services things. Mm-hmm. And then I said, around me, there's all these state housing houses with grass up to the windows. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? So I inquired about it.
Yep.
Apparently, state housing overrides fire department.
Wow.
Well, wasn't
That's
that
pretty
interesting?
special.
Yeah,
I
so-
want to understand this. I want to understand why in the centre of Perth right now, okay, if you're a resident and you park your car in front of your house or your apartment or whatever the case may be, that you'll get a fine for that. But it's totally cool, right, for people to go set up tents and so forth and live there quite comfortably. In fact, when I go camping, I have to pay the national park a fee for being there, but I can set up in the middle of Newcastle
Well,
Street
it gets
if I wanted to.
further. So the people who get to camp, they also get to go break into people's houses.
Oh, optional extra.
We've got
Fantastic.
photos of that too.
Great.
Fantastic.
You know what the government, what the police want to do about it?
What do the police want to do?
I've got a zero symbol
Yeah,
here.
it's
Zero.
radio, mate. It's
right.
audio.
Big zip. Nothing.
Right.
So I would love to know, Basil, mate.
Basil, is it
Old
time you did something about this?
You know what? I think maybe Rosemary can help him out.
we should finish the show. Let's go home. That's it. It's gone to a whole new level of.
We even got Dwayne to giggle about that one. So, but no, it's and the stupidity, and I want to get Elaine's opinion on this one. We've got a council who waters in the rain. We've got a government that locks up healthy people, and now they've taken it one step further. They're banning plastic to save the environment.
Yeah, wow. What can we say about that?
But yet
Really?
they're happily wasting water, diesel, just you name it, they're wasting it.
Right.
And then they turn around, and I don't know if you saw it today in the WA today, single-use straws, which has been out for a while, cutlery, and all those other stuff. But then just to confirm the date for me, Dwayne, what year are the ear cotton wool buds? 2, 1,
that'll be, yeah.
2, 3. So 2023. There we go. Oh, okay, he's nodding like a chicken. It's
Okay.
awesome. So by 2023, even your ear cleaner things, you know, the cotton wool buds that they tell you don't
Oh,
put
look,
in your
I'm a
ear.
bit OCD with those too. I've got to tell
Well,
you.
aren't we all?
Oh, out of the shower, baby. That's the first thing that touches my body.
Oh, wow.
No one needed that image. I look. I love the environment. I want to look after the environment, but at the same time, there's got to be this balance here, okay? And it's like the paper straws, and like how stupid is it now that paper straws, because of COVID, are now in a plastic wrapper? I find that pretty
Exactly.
amazing. That's amazing.
Pretty
Right?
Hang on,
stupid.
plastic straws are in a paper wrapper.
No.
No.
Paper straw is in a plastic wrapper because of COVID.
I heard that when Starbucks stopped using plastic straws, they had to modify the lids, which use like 4 or 5 times more plastic than what the actual straw did.
Because a lot of companies think about the perception more than the reality.
They just don't care. They're just doing it for votes and money. So now it's kind of hilarious. Okay, Elaine, what's your thoughts?
So, what I would rather see is why don't we have some recycling programs happening? Okay, if they don't want the plastic, where are all the recycling plants that we should have?
Can't you make plastic out of hemp these days?
Oh, you can
You
make
probably
everything out of
can.
hemp.
Yeah, you
can't
can.
Yeah.
There's
Why
no
don't
reason.
they just totally decriminalise it? Because that would save a lot of money on the war on crime, war on drugs, and all that sort of stuff as well. Have a look at California, how much money they have made from the decriminalising of marijuana.
Is that right?
Well,
Huge.
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I mean, I'm not sort of all up on the old regulations when it comes to that. I'm not I'm not personally involved in that. I'm not interested, but I think that the hemp issue is very important. I think there's an industry there that can be used. Hemp clothes, if it was done in a much bigger numbers, they wouldn't be so expensive.
Well, if you did have a house fire and you had all hemp clothes, it'd be interesting for the firefighters.
That could
Sorry.
lead to
So
further
just
problems.
let's just go back to the plastic earbud cleaner thing.
I've just got an image of myself as Bob Marley running from my house. All right, okay, with a cotton bud stuck
we
in
don't
either
want to
ear.
think about
Okay.
that.
Okay, so back to the Commonwealth buds. I remember when there was a heap of farmers got screwed over by the government. So they got tractors full of poop and they dumped it on the steps of Parliament.
Yep.
As a protest at Mark McGowan, why don't we just go get like millions and millions of cotton wool earbuds and go, here you go, have them back.
What a bloody great idea.
You know
Can't
how
we do
annoying
that?
that would be to pick up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It sure would be.
Hang on, what do we got here? We got a message.
Got a message we need to get to. The old. There's a bit of paper over there that can help out. There we go. Oh, look at that. Sharing is caring. It's official. Let's promote it. Okay, so let's get people to call the studio. What do you think? Okay, on 62443322. That number again, 62443322.
Now, for our interstate callers who don't know the WA area code, it's 08.
It
So
is.
08 and then the number that Aaron just said because I don't know the number.
Or text us on 04. Come on.
0418 897 897.
Spot on.
Cool now.
Call me. Call
Okay,
me now.
now we did have, and I did promise I was going to bring this up earlier. Oh, someone's calling. Dwayne, can you pick up the
Yay.
phone, please?
All right.
Now, we did have a question earlier about in regards to what's going on with the Aboriginal people, about how in New Zealand, I'm going to absolutely butcher this, so I do apologise for anyone
your
who's
best, mate.
married. It was the agreement of Ho'opawata, and I know I butchered it. What it is, the New Zealand government, because the Maoris were the secondary people there, they openly admit they ate the first lot of people there, but they were the main ones that had it before the Westerners, like I think it was the East Asian Trading Company, came there, they settled, they colonised New Zealand, and they did a really, really dodgy deal and purchased most of New Zealand. So there was a whole heap of compensation claims, very similar to our native title in Australia.
Okay.
So what the New Zealand government did, they said, right, on this date, we will not accept any more native title claims. So the gentleman that messaged through, I'm not going to say his name because the company he works for gets really, really fussy about these sort of things.
Okay.
When will the Australian government man up and say, enough's enough, fix it? By this date, no more native title claims.
Well, Elaine, what's your thoughts on that?
Look, I think it's got to be sorted, and sorted sooner rather than later. It's really gone on long enough.
It really has. It really has. I look, as I say, I want equality. I want everyone to have an opportunity to do their very, very best. And I don't think that, unfortunately, these problems tend to hold a state and a country, very much to ransom. Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah,
these need to be sorted. This needs to be, not nipped in the bud, but we need an end date, just like New Zealand. So normally I will pull the mickey out of New Zealand because I have a lot of Kiwi mates, so that's kind of my duty and my job. But
Sick as brew.
yeah, yes, fully sick. Got some scaffolding, will be good. Anyway, but aside from that,
You said that, not me.
I have so many Kiwi mates.
Complaints
so
go to
I love them a bit,
complaints
so it
out
doesn't
at
matter.
897.com.
Yeah, where is the complaints department when we need them?
So my stance on this one is I'm just really, really sick of everyone getting labelled and treated differently depending on who you are and who your
So
ancestors
true.
were.
Identity
As far as I'm
politics.
concerned, and the biggest argument is, but they're disadvantaged, we need to help them. And they're a single mother with 3 children and the dad beat them. And the thing is, I'm the child of a single mother.
Yeah, well, there you
Like,
go.
just because you're black doesn't mean that you're being disadvantaged as much as myself or someone else. Everyone has horror stories, regardless of what your race, your colour, where you're from and all that sort of stuff. It just needs to stop. So people, stop labelling each other. Just treat each other the same. Like, don't treat people differently just because, you're from Thailand, you're from Papua New Guinea, you're from wherever. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw this one over to Elaine. We just had a message come in through from the producer. It was in regards to the plastic straws.
Right.
So, Elaine, apparently you know the truth of recycling.
Oh, I know some truth of recycling. So, years ago, I started a recycling program at my kids' school
Right.
and taught the kids, even the little pre-primary kids, to bring in all their stuff, get it recycled. Then I found out that it was all going to Tamala Park and being squashed
You're
with
kidding me.
the rubbish. And I have that firsthand from truck drivers that were supposedly going in to dump general household waste. So where is the government? What have they been doing? That was years ago when my kids were, maybe the younger ones were 5 or 6.
Right.
Why have we not progressed after all this time? It's just pathetic.
Well, look, I think we have. I think there's been a lot of progress in that department. I think the bad old days of just dumping rubbish and not recycling it it still exists, but it's far smaller problem than it was before.
Got a question for you then. How much rubbish do we send to Indonesia and China to be burnt for
Well,
power?
how rude of you, because I was just about to go there. That's exactly what I was going to say. The issue that upsets me is a lot of this recycling, and I invert the commas there as I say it, is exactly that, being sent offshore and being dumped on other nations. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, why? I just really don't get it. It would keep people in work. It would produce money for our country. Instead of that, they're doing all these foolish things and just continue to do them.
Yep.
So there was a really, really good documentary. I have to give credit where credit's due, and I'm pretty sure it was an ABC documentary that was talking about the process of sending it over and what the different countries did with it.
Okay.
And the whole reason why the Australian government sends it to Indonesia and China and these other third world countries, well, China's not really a third world country,
Far
but
from it.
is because the cost to ship it to another country and sell it to them is way, way, way more profitable than what it is to recycle. My understanding is there's only one company currently that has a process to turn rubbish into beads and at zero cost. Everything else is anything beyond that. There's a massive cost behind it. So it's purely economics at this stage.
Right,
And
okay.
I personally think there's not enough money being put into technology and research. There should be way, way, way more money spent on technology because we've got the ability and the smarts to find ways to recycle and you reuse things. So why don't we? Why aren't we spending more money on this? Why are we wasting so much money sending it overseas to the UN,
Exactly.
the World Health Organization?
Because often you'll find that it's going to be a politician's mate who has got the contract, quite frankly, as we've seen so much over the last few months particularly. So many deals going on, bags, Aldi bags full of cash, all that kind of thing. But if it's not votes, it's contracts that are being given. Our Attorney General, of course, Christian Porter, who has got a bit of a story going at the moment, which we could talk about all night, but we won't, not tonight anyway. Christian Porter, he is and this is my opinion, based on sort of the stories that have come out and some of the evidence that I've seen, it's jobs for mates. That people get in these positions of power, and they get free buses given to them to promote themselves, all that kind of stuff. That's what it tends to be. So a lot of these contracts, the reason why they're so profitable is it just, funny enough, they kind of just seem to be linked to politicians. Weird, huh?
That is strange, isn't it?
The
Very
one
strange.
that really irks me, how many politicians have gone, I need to retire because, family issues and health and the stress, and then they walk into like a $800,000-$900,000 job, aka Kevin Rudd.
Yeah.
Works part-time, earns $1.2 million for a Chinese company.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Isn't
that
he
says
the one
a lot,
that
doesn't it?
really, really pushed the free trade agreement with China
I believe so.
and sold a lot of Australia out?
People need to wake up to what's happening in our
Now-
country.
And I was someone who was like pro K Rudd, and I feel so stupid now.
You supported Kevin Rudd because
I
he went to
did.
the strippers.
Yes, that's exactly why I supported
Oh, that's
him.
so sad,
Well,
Aaron.
no, I'll tell you what, okay, because I could identify he's a real Aussie. That's how I sort of saw it. Politicians, they
I
all...
love double standards.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
totally
okay
double
for Kevin
standards.
Rudd to go to the strippers, but not for Steve Dixon.
No, I'm totally happy with Steve Dixon going as well,
Yeah.
right?
But do you remember the backlash from
Oh,
that?
the backlash was ridiculous. Exactly right. No, it's just that, okay, politicians are, generally speaking, quite fake people, right? They put on this persona that, gets them votes. This is the issue here. With him, yes, I could identify them. Not that I spent a lot of time at strippers, but just from the point of view.
Right.
Where's the bullshit button?
She told me she loved me. Look,
Yeah, whatever.
Tell a lie. Tell a lie.
But I could identify with he was very real, okay, and some of the policies, especially when we had the global recession and so forth, I identified with the money being spent at the schools and that sort of thing. So I was very positive about that. And quite frankly, I sit here as, in my opinion, a reformed lefty. I mean, I used to sit on the left side of politics. Now I sit right in the middle, and quite frankly, have a bit of a lean on the right. And I'm very happy, and I won't hide away from that. I think that it's really important to be open to other ideas, and that's exactly what it was. I saw the light, and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little thing called research. I'm going to actually start listening to people's speeches in Parliament and that kind of thing.
I'm going to cut you off right
You
here.
are, I can see that.
Because
Go for it.
I think we have Vicky on the line.
Hello, Vicky.
Oh, help if I press the right button.
Okay. You would
Oh, she hung up.
Oh, we've lost
Oh,
Vicky, if you're listening, please call back.
we did have Vicky.
Vicky. Oh, we did.
It's all good.
Okay.
We are very new to this telephone system, and it's weird.
Really?
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like their old
It's
system.
as weird as Aaron's shirts.
Let's blame the telephone
Oh,
system.
our old system was far better. We had a couple of cans, some string. It was amazing.
Oh,
it
there
never
we
failed.
go.
Yeah, it was great.
See,
Worked really
modern
well.
technology.
Now,
what have they done?
what I am going to do, I'm going to try this again.
Oh, there we go.
Let's
We have a
see.
call.
We go that one, and then we go
Carry the two. Yeah. Okay.
hold
Right.
And then we
he's
press-
giving it a crack.
2 again.
All right. I think we might have Vicky. What do you think? Push up the fader. Let's see if we've got Vicky.
Come
Hey,
on,
Vicky, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you going?
We have success. We're very well, Vicky.
Yeah, pop the
Can you
headphones
hear
on
me
and like.
okay?
Yep, I can.
Okay, we
Travis?
can hear
Okay,
you,
so
Vicky.
you guys are very quiet.
That's okay. We can't help it. It's the phone system. We do apologise.
No, all good.
So what do you want to talk
I
about,
was-
Vicky? You got like 4 minutes.
Yeah, so I was calling in, and I was actually calling in as I was listening to Elaine. So I called in and spoke with your producer, and I was telling my sister actually, because I live quite close to Elaine. I live in Ashby, which is about 5-minute drive from Joondalup.
Okay.
And my sister works for the city of Wanneroo, and she's a garbologist.
Cool.
She's actually worked
Fancy name for a garbo.
yeah. She loves it. Absolutely loves it. If they shove her in the office, she completely hates it. She likes to be out there. She's mainly on bulk rubbish. She's worked there for probably 12, 13 years.
Right.
And she doesn't recycle. I don't recycle. None of my family recycle, and the reason being, because then obviously I heard Elaine after that too. The reason being is because it is all dumped in the same place.
Yes, it is.
So I think, as we know, 2020, COVID-19, the masks, everything else, it's all just to, just to make people comply, because at the end of the chain, people are complying. People are washing out their tin beans. They're washing out their milk cartons. And, they're separating it. They've got things in their kitchen, looks ugly. They're stacking stuff up and, thinking like they're doing the right thing.
I don't even separate my whites and my colours. I mean, come on, jeez.
Oh, this is going to sound really bad. I don't think I've done any washing in about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, you guys, how sexist.
No,
Vicky, what do you think?
I
Sexist
try, and then my wife complains, saying that I do such a terrible job of it. Just get out and she'll do
You
it.
probably do that on purpose, Travis.
Yeah,
And see, that's a boy thing, right, Vicky? That's a boy thing.
I do my own washing.
Hey, I do my own washing too.
Can you come over and do mine then? I'd love that.
No.
I sometimes, because I've got a new washing machine that doesn't beep to alert me every 5 minutes until I open the lid. I've got one that stays silent when it's finished. So sometimes I end up by washing one load about 3 or 4 times before it gets to the washing.
You know what we need?
tricky.
We need our washing machines hooked up to the internet, so they have a camera inside so they can see how much it's clean, and then you can have controls on the computer, and when it's done you get text messages and emails and they remind you every 5 minutes that it's done.
Stop it, Travis. We've got enough
Maybe we
technology.
should put Dan Andrews in charge of our washing machine.
No, I reckon he should go out with the rubbish.
He's not touching my washing machine.
Yeah, he should go out with the recycling, and we won't bloody recycle him.
No, he's not fit to touch anything.
But I've got another one,
himself.
which is actually one that you might be interested in, boys. So this whole bottle rebate thing, which we remember obviously from when we were kids, when it was probably, still not legitimate. We still used to do it, and obviously it ended up in the same place. But this new one, for instance, when it was introduced, so about 3 or 4 days before it was introduced, a particular carton of beer, and this is not just one, particular brand, so a particular carton of beer was $48 in one bottle shop, $49 in another.
Right.
Once this was introduced, it went up to $45.
Wow, interesting.
Right. So we do have one last question for you there, because we've only got a minute left. So sorry to cut you off. We do only have a minute. Our producer wants to know, what's your thoughts on the cotton bud ban, the ones that you stick in your ears, which you're not supposed to put in your ears?
Oh, really?
I haven't heard about that.
It came out fresh off the press today. They're banning the cotton wool things that you clean your ears out.
Thanks to our wonderful premiere.
Oh, and
Cotton Eye Joe himself.
Is that because the Chinese are boycotting us and they're the ones that have the cotton farms?
Oh, wow, there's a thought.
Oh, you know what? I like
think
Vicky.
we need to discuss that for next week's show. That was a big one. Can I get a nod from the producer?
Well, let's do some research.
Makes sense.
If you want me to pop in, like I said, I'm only 5 minutes away, so I can pop into the show anyway.
Why not? You seem great.
The
Let's
more
do
the
that.
merrier.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to have to call it there because we are rapidly running out of time, and we do have another show afterwards.
But think about the beer. So 24
I really
bottles.
hate to do this. The next show's on a timer, and it will cut us off anyway. So this has been Carter's Corner. Vicky, you're a legend. My guest, thank you very much for coming in, and I will call you in about 10 seconds. So thank you very much. This is Carter's Corner. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Need to unwind and take a load off for your drive home? Then join Alan and Rhonda for Thursday Kickback from 3 to 6 p.m. They will have you covered with all of the best music, traffic updates, plus their regular segments such as feature artists and of course their light-hearted humour. You've got to love a joke or two. Enjoy all of the entertainment. It's Thursday Kickback on 89.7 FM and streaming on 897fm.com.au.
Does your internet blow more than the Freo Doctor? Download slower than merging on the Mitchell? Connection more up and down than a gym buff at Jacob's Ladder? Say goodbye to buffering and hello to Pentinet's Perth-powered internet. We're bringing Perth's internet up to speed because we live here too. For super fast, reliable fixed wireless, NBN and LBN fibre internet, get online now with Pentinet, your local Perth internet provider. Head to pentinet.com.au and check your address to see if you qualify.
Proud station sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen,
here we go.
Australia's only top 20 urban radio countdown. You ready?